My name is Hannah. I am 29 years old. I live with my mother and my younger brother. We live in a small house in a quiet town. The house is old, but we keep it clean. We do not have a lot, but we have enough. We help each other. We try to smile, even on hard days. When I was a child, I wanted to study science. I wanted to learn about plants and water and the sky. I like to ask questions. I like to read small books. I wanted to go to a big school in the city. I wanted to learn more and more. That was my dream. But life changed too fast. My father died when I was 17. He got sick, and we had no money for good care. He was kind. He worked hard. He helped me with homework. He told me to follow my dream. When he died, I felt lost. My mother cried every night. My brother was only 10. He needed help with school. He needed food, clean clothes, and care. My mother was too sad to do everything. I had to help, so I stopped going to school. I took a job in an office. I cleaned tables and windows. I worked from morning to night. My hands were always busy. My feet hurt. But I said to myself, just for a while, I will go back to school later. But later never came. Years passed. I stayed at the same job. I cleaned offices every day. I walked home after dark. My shoes wore out, and I fixed them with glue. I cooked for my brother and helped him with homework. I washed clothes and did the shopping. I did not go out with friends. I did not buy new things. All the money went to the house and to food. My brother's name is Daniel. He is a smart boy. He works hard. He wants to be a doctor. I help him every night with study. I make sure he eats well. He tells me, "Thank you, Hannah." That always makes me smile. I feel proud of him. I want him to have a better life. But some nights, I feel sad. I sit by the window and look at the sky. I think about my dream. I wanted to study too. I wanted to learn more, but I did not. I gave that dream away. Sometimes I ask myself, did I do the right thing? I don't know the answer. One day, I saw 3 girls walking near the park. They wore simple clothes, but they looked happy. They talked about a science class. One of them said, "Next week we start at the center." I wanted to walk near them. I wanted to hear more. But I stayed behind. I felt like I was from a different world. I went home and sat with my mother. She looked tired. I told her, "I saw girls from a science group." She looked at me. Her eyes were soft. She said, "That could have been you." I did not speak. I did not want her to feel sad. She knew I gave up many things. At night, I could not sleep. I thought about the school I never went to. I thought about the books I never read. I thought about the white coat I never wore. I felt like a part of me was missing. But still, I got up the next day and went to work. My job is not easy. I clean desks and floors. I carry heavy bags. I wash big windows. Some people say hello. Some people say nothing. Most do not see me. I wear old pants and a sweater. I move from room to room. My feet feel slow by the end of the day. One day, I saw a woman at work. She smiled at me. She said, "The office looks nice." I said, "Thank you." She walked away. It was only 2 words, but they stayed in my heart. That day, I felt strong. My brother finished high school last year. He now studies at a college in the city. I still make him food and wash his clothes. I wait for him when he comes home. He talks about classes and books and exams. I listen. I try not to feel left out. I tell him, "Do your best." He says, "You are the reason I am here." One Sunday morning, he came to me. He said, "Do you still want to study?" I looked at him. I did not know what to say. I said, "That dream is too far now." He sat next to me. He said, "I will help you, like you helped me." I smiled. I did not answer. My heart was full, but I still knew the truth. Life is not easy to change. That afternoon, I cleaned the garden. The sun was bright. The soil was soft. I pulled weeds and watered the small plants. A woman walked by and said, "Your yard looks good." I said, "Thank you." She smiled and waved. It was a small thing, but it made my day better. Later, my mother and I sat in the kitchen. She made tea. She looked at me and said, "You gave so much. You stopped your dream, but you gave life to ours." I looked at her. Her face was soft and kind. I felt warm inside. That night, I sat in my room. The air was quiet. I looked at the wall. It was plain, but I saw more. I saw my past. I saw the small things I did. I did not go to a big school. I did not wear a lab coat, but I helped a boy grow. I helped a home stay strong. I helped a sad mother find peace again. And maybe that is enough. Before I continue my story, I want to ask you something. Where are you listening from? Sometimes I wonder if someone out there really understands me. Just knowing you're here gives me strength. I woke up early the next day. The air was cold. The room was quiet. I sat on the bed and looked at my hands. They were dry and a little rough. I thought about my job. I thought about the long day ahead. I stood up and got ready. I put on my old sweater and shoes. My shoes had a small hole, but they still worked. On the way to work, I passed the same school. I saw children with books in their arms. Some walked fast. Some smiled and ran with friends. I watched them for a moment. My heart felt both happy and sad. I was glad they could learn, but I also felt far from that life. At work, I started with the main room. The floor was dusty. I picked up the mop and began cleaning. My back started to hurt after an hour. I stopped to stretch my arms. I looked at the clock. It was still early. The day felt long. Later, I moved to the second floor. I cleaned the desks and windows. I emptied the trash bins. One woman saw me and said, "Thank you for your work." I said, "You're welcome." She walked away. Her words were simple, but they stayed with me. Most days no one said anything. After work, I walked home. My feet felt heavy. The road was quiet. I passed a small tree and stopped. A bird was on a branch. It sang a soft song. I closed my eyes for a second. The wind touched my face. I took a deep breath. Then I kept walking. At home, I made dinner for my brother and mother. My brother was studying in his room. My mother sat on the sofa and rested her legs. She smiled at me when I placed the plate in front of her. She said, "You work hard every day." I said, "It's okay, Mom." After dinner, my brother came to the kitchen. He poured a glass of water and said, "My teacher asked about you." I looked up. "Why?" I asked. He said, "I told her you wanted to study before. She said there is a free class for adults in the evening." I stayed quiet. He waited for me to speak. I said, "I will think about it." That night, I could not sleep. I thought about the class. I thought about sitting in a room again, learning new things. It made me feel nervous. I had not studied in many years. Maybe I was too old. Maybe I was too tired. But part of me still wanted it. In the morning, I went to work like always. But my mind was not at work. My hands moved, but my thoughts were far. I kept thinking about the evening class. After work, I walked slower. I felt unsure. When I got home, my brother asked, "Will you go to the class?" I said, "Maybe. I'm not sure yet." He smiled and said, "You can do it." The next day, I walked to the small school where the evening class was held. I did not go inside. I just stood outside and looked at the door. A woman came out. She smiled at me. "Do you need help?" she asked. I said, "No, I'm just looking." She nodded and walked away. I stood there for another minute. Then I turned around and walked home. I was not ready yet. The next week was the same. I went to work, cleaned the offices, walked home, made dinner, and helped my brother. Every day felt the same, but I kept thinking about that school door. One Friday, my brother brought me a small paper. It had the class times and a phone number. He said, "You don't have to call. Just keep it." I placed it in a box near my bed. That weekend, I cleaned the house. I washed clothes and swept the floor. My mother helped me fold the clothes. She said, "You always take care of us." I said, "That's what I do." She looked at me. But what about you? I did not answer. I just smiled. That evening I sat outside. The sun was low in the sky. The light was soft and orange. I looked at the small garden. A few flowers were growing. I had planted them months ago. I didn't think they would grow, but they did. They were small, but strong. I thought about that. I thought about how they grew, even in hard soil. Maybe I could grow too. Maybe it was not too late. On Monday, I walked to the school again. This time, I stepped inside. The hallway was quiet. A woman sat at a desk. She looked up and smiled. "Can I help you?" she asked. I said, "I want to join the evening class." She asked for my name and gave me a form. The paper was short. I wrote my name slowly. My hand shook a little. When I gave it back, she said, "Class starts tomorrow at 6. I walked home with the paper in my hand. My brother saw it and smiled. "I'm proud of you," he said. My mother hugged me and said, "You are brave." The next day, I worked like always, but I moved faster. I wanted to be home before the class. At 5, I put on clean clothes and tied my hair back. I looked in the mirror. I felt nervous, but ready. At the school, I sat in a small room with other adults. Some were younger, some were older. We all sat with paper and pencils. The teacher came in and said, "Welcome." Her voice was kind. I looked around. Everyone looked just like me, tired but hopeful. We started with simple reading. Then we wrote a few words. I felt slow, but I understood. I smiled to myself. I was here. I was learning again. After class, I walked home in the dark. The sky was full of stars. I looked up and smiled. I still had work in the morning. I still had to clean and cook. But now, I had something for me. A small part. A quiet dream that waited, and now was here. Maybe I gave up my dream once, but maybe it didn't go away. Maybe it just waited until I was ready. I went to class 2 times each week. The lessons were not easy, but I liked them. The room was small, and the teacher was kind. She spoke slowly and smiled often. The other students worked hard like me. Some wanted better jobs. Some wanted to read stories to their children. I just wanted to learn again. Each class gave me something new. I learned new words. I learned how to write short texts. My hand felt weak at first, but each week, my writing got better. I read slowly, but I read with care. I listened. I took my time. I felt proud of every small step. At home, I still worked hard. I cleaned, cooked, and washed clothes. I still worked my full hours at the office building. I still made lunch for my mother and brother. But now, I had something that was only mine. A little piece of hope. My brother helped me on weekends. He checked my spelling. He helped me with sounds. He said, "You learn fast." I didn't believe him, but it made me happy. One night after class, I saw a small poster on the wall. It said, "Learn more. Apply for our next level class." The next level started in 3 months. I stood in front of the poster for a long time. I felt unsure. Was I good enough for the next class? I went home and told my brother. He said, "Of course you should apply." I laughed. "I don't know," I said. "I'm still slow." He said, "You are not slow. You are strong. You just started late." I looked at my notebook. My writing was simple, but neat. I had filled many pages. That night, I made a quiet choice. I would apply. The next day after class, I gave the teacher my name. I said, "I want to join the next level." She looked at me and said, "I'm very happy to hear that, Hannah. You're doing well." I smiled. I felt shy, but inside I felt light. The weeks passed. I kept working. I kept studying. At work, nothing changed. I still cleaned desks and picked up trash, but I held my head a little higher. I didn't talk much, but I listened more. When people spoke kindly, I smiled back. One afternoon, a man in a white shirt saw me cleaning. He said, "Do you clean the whole floor?" I said, "Yes." He said, "It looks good." That was all, but it made me feel seen. When I came home that evening, my mother gave me a plate of food. She said, "You look tired." I said, "A good tired." She smiled. I sat down and ate slowly. It felt nice. The next month, our teacher gave us a small test. It was not long, but I was nervous. My hands felt cold. I held my pencil tight. I did my best. When I finished, I took a deep breath. A week later, the teacher gave the tests back. She placed mine on my desk. She smiled. I looked down. I passed. I smiled too. It was not perfect, but it was enough. I felt like I could fly. That evening, my brother made tea. He said, "You passed, didn't you?" I nodded. "Yes," I said. He lifted his cup and said, "To you, big sister." We both laughed. On the day of the final class, the teacher asked each of us to share one thing. She said, "Tell us why you came." One woman said she wanted to help her daughter with school. A man said he wanted to read signs at his job. I waited for my turn. When it was my time, I said, "I stopped school when I was 17. I had to help my family. I cleaned. I worked. I gave up my dream. But now I learn again. I want to study more. I want to know more. That is my dream now." The room was quiet. Then someone clapped. The others joined. I looked down. My face felt warm, but my heart felt strong. After the class, the teacher came to me. She said, "You are one of the best students I've had." I said, "Thank you. That means a lot." She said, "Never stop learning." I said, "I won't." That night, I walked home under the stars. The road was quiet. The sky was dark, but the moon was full. I felt light. I felt proud. I had walked a long road. I had waited many years, but now my dream had a place again. At home, my mother hugged me. She said, "Your father would be proud." I looked at her. I said, "I hope so." She said, "I know so." I did not become a doctor. I did not wear a white coat. I did not work in a lab. But I stood up. I tried again. I learned. And I gave my heart to it. One morning, I looked at the mirror. I still wore old clothes. My hands were still rough. But my eyes looked different. I looked calm. I looked strong. And maybe that was more than enough. If you liked my story, please like, comment, and share. More simple and emotional stories are coming soon.